All right, let's talk about the classical footwork. So, footwork is a staple in many reformer Pilates classes. It's placed into the beginning of a class for a couple of reasons. One, it's a simple movement. It's a great opportunity to develop a pace or a cadence that you want your clients to move from. It's a great opportunity to talk about breath, about the pelvic floor and the core, and it also teaches the clients on how you initiate and move from your core, not just your arms and your legs. And it was designed originally with heavy springs. Joseph Pilates was actually quite athletic, and there are programs out there that do footwork medium to light, and that's not how it was originally intended to be. So the way I was taught was to do all springs. It should be heavy, and on many reformers you can make it even a little heavier. You can't see my springs right now, but I have all the springs on the hooks. Now if I want it even heavier, I can bring the springs up on top of my spring bar. I have these little buttons, which if you put the springs on those buttons, it makes the springs just a little bit heavier. So depending on what you're going for, you can make it heavier if you need to. Now also our foot bar. The foot bar should be in the up position, not all the way high, not all the way low, but right there in the middle, and that's called the up position. And you're also going to want to have your headrest up. The headrest can be down, but it's actually a little bit easier for the clients to breathe out of their throats if the headrest is up. So how about we get started? I already have my all of my springs on, and I'm going to go ahead and lay back onto my carriage here. So there are several different positions for footwork. We're going to first start in Pilates V, also known as first position. So we're going to bring our heels together, our toes are turned out. Now on the foot bar, I have all 10 toes on the foot bar. The balls of my feet are on the foot bar. You can either keep your feet in a neutral position, or you can bring your feet up so that you're on the balls of your feet and your heels are lifted in releve. It's up to you. You just want to maintain that same position the entire time. So as you're opening and closing the carriage, the feet should not be moving around. They should stay in that same position right there. Hands are down by your sides. Now let's talk about neutral pelvis. We hear that a lot in Pilates. When you think neutral, think natural. I have a pretty pronounced sway in my low back. I do not want to push my low back into the carriage or imprint the low back into the carriage, because that just created a Pilates scoop, and also my glutes just engaged. So I want to be able to keep my tailbone firmly planted on the carriage, but not my low back, so that my pubic bones and my pelvis are all on the same plane. I'm maintaining that neutral pelvis. For me, a neutral pelvis means my low back is not pressing into the carriage, and that's going to be the case for a lot of your clients. All right, maintaining that neutral pelvis, we're going to inhale as we open the carriage. And then exhale, I'm going to contract the core and resist the carriage closing. I'm inhaling through my nose as the carriage opens. And then exhale out the back of my throat as the carriage closes. So this is the pace that you should move throughout most of the class. Every now and then we're going to add pulses, little bounces, but for the most part, this is the pace in which you will move. That's one of the reasons why footwork is done in the beginning of the class. Also, it's a pretty simple movement. It's not overloading the client in the very beginning. Notice I'm not saying push into the foot bar. I actually want to lift up from that pelvic floor, like I'm zipping up a pair of jeans to open. So I initiated from the core, and then I'm going to resist as I close. So you should definitely see the softened lift from your clients versus this is me pushing into the foot bar. I'm going to dominate with my legs. See the difference? So I'm not dominating with my legs. I'm lifting away from the foot bar, and then exhale, I'm resisting it closing. That way your legs are not going to get fatigued as fast, and it's teaching your clients to move from the core. I was taught to inhale as the springs open and exhale as the springs close. And a good way to remember that, when you're inhaling, you want to imagine your spine is lengthening, growing tall, just like the springs. Every time you exhale, you want to contract the core, just like the springs are contracting when you close. Inhale to open, exhale to close. Now you can always add pulses. I typically do 10 full reps, and then I come halfway in on the 10th one, hold it here in tiny little pulses. People do come to Pilates a lot of times for fitness, so they do want to feel those muscles reach fatigue. So I'll do 10 here, and then lift all the way out, bring it all the way back in. Now let's bring our feet and legs to parallel. I'm going to have the arches of my feet on the foot bar, and I'm going to curl my toes over. So the top of my arch is on top of the foot bar. We're going to maintain this position. Notice my thighs are not squeezing together. I have my knees and hips and ankles all in line right there. Same thing, you're going to inhale to open the carriage. Exhale to resist the carriage closing. Definitely want to feel the contraction in that core. Inhale to lift away. Exhale to close. Moving from that same pace. We're not going too fast. We're not going too slow. Lifting from the pelvic floor like I'm zipping up a pair of skinny jeans. And then exhale, contracting the core even more as I come back in. I typically do 10 reps. On the 10th one, I'm going to come halfway in and pause and pulse it here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to lift all the way out. Exhale, bring it all the way back in. Good. Now we're going to come, we're going to stay in parallel. We're going to bring our heels on to heels. So our legs are still in parallel. My heels are on. I'm going to pull my toes back towards my shins so that my toes are lifted. And I'm actively starting to feel the tops of my feet start to work right there. All right, so we're going to inhale, lift away. Exhale, resist the carriage closing. Checking in with that pelvis. You want to check in periodically to make sure that the low back or the tailbone is heavy, but the low back is not. You can use visuals like if you had a small marshmallow behind your low back, you do not want to smush that marshmallow. Or if you have a low back tattoo, you do not want to press the tattoo into the carriage. No imprinting here on footwork. Throughout your training, you're going to see that there are some other studios and other training programs that talk about imprinting during footwork, but this program we do not imprint for footwork. And we're going to come halfway in, hold it here, and pulse it again. This time, let's just go for 5 and 4, 3, 2, and 1. We're going to lift all the way out. Exhale, bring it all the way back in. Now we're going to go to bird's feet. So bird's feet, you have your toes, the balls of your feet are on, curling the toes over, and I'm going to drop my heels down low. So I feel the stretch in the back of the foot right here like this. We're going to maintain that position as I inhale, open. Exhale, back in. Inhale, lifting from the pelvic floor. Exhale, back in. Exact same cues apply. You do, though, want to talk about keeping those heels down, feeling a stretch in the backs of those ankles as you come back in. And again, inhale, lengthening out. Exhale, back in. Now let's go to toes on. So we're still in parallel. Our ankles are lifted. I want to have equal weight distributed from my big toe to my little toe, and I do 10 here. I start to feel the calves a little bit more on this one. Typically, when I'm teaching footwork, I teach 4 positions, or I pick 4 positions only. You don't want to spend all day on footwork. There are so many great things to do with the reformer. You don't want to waste your time, too much time on footwork. People tend to get a little bit bored with footwork. Now you can go into calf raises from here. Calf raises are here. Equal weight from the big toe to the little toe. We're going to drop the heels down. This is also a nice opportunity as an instructor. When you lower those heels, if the instructor comes around in front of the foot bar, grabs the backs of your ankles and gives you a tug, often clients say that feels really, really good. We're lifting up. As I lift up, I want to keep equal weight from the big toe to the little toe. I also want to be careful that the ankle does not rock out. The ankle is moving, is tracking nice and straight. Same rules apply, same cues apply. Inhale, lift from the pelvic floor. Exhale, contract the core as it closes. And we're gonna stay up into the high position here as we come all the way back in. Heels wide. heels wider is often one of the easier movements, especially for women, because women are stronger when they're externally rotated. That way they can use their glutes a little bit more. You want to firmly press your heels into the foot bar as I externally rotate my knees and toes out. Inhale, lift away. Try not to lock the knees ever. Exhale, bring it back in. Check in with that pelvis. Make sure you're maintaining a nice neutral pelvis. Again, we're lifting up from the pelvic floor to lift away from the foot bar, not pressing that low back down. Exhale, bring it right back in. Find those glutes. Sometimes you can use your fingertips to touch the glutes right there. That sends a direct signal to your brain to work from the glutes or to fire those glutes. We'll do one more here. All right, so there you have it, the classical footwork. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and show you some more contemporary variations of footwork that I really enjoy. I love